Hi readers, thanks for joining me for a story today. Look how beautiful it is outside. We have just had a really big snowstorm where I live. Today should be a school day, but it's not a school day, it's a shovel day. We've had 2 shoveling days, but it's really nice. Been shoveling and snowshoeing and it's been great, although there's a lot of snow and not a lot of place to put it right now. I set the camera up here so that maybe we would see a bird in the cute little bird house that my daughter made a few years ago. They've been fluttering all about. That was top priority, getting ready for the storm, was filling the bird feeders. Okay, here's the story I chose for today. It's called One Snowy Night, and I was going to read it last night, but I was way too tired after shoveling and snowshoeing, so I'm gonna read it today. It's by Nick Butterworth. I think I've read it here before, but it's a favorite. It's seasonally appropriate, so here we go with One Snowy Night. I think you'll enjoy it if you've never heard it before, and you will enjoy it if you have heard it before. It's cold in the park in winter, but Percy the park keeper doesn't mind. He puts on his warm coat and his big scarf and wears 2 pairs of woolly socks inside his Wellington boots. Percy likes to be out in the fresh air. Connection. I like to be out in the fresh air. Look, I see a bird. And I like to be warm in all my woolies. In the middle of the park, there is a little hut. This is where Percy lives. When it gets too cold to be outside, Percy goes into the hut where it is cozy and warm. The animals who live in the park all know Percy's hut. Every day, he shares his lunch with them. That's very sweet. I bet they like that as it gets harder to find something for themselves. One winter's night, it was so cold, it began to snow. Great big snowflakes fell past the windows of Percy's hut. "Purr," said Percy, "I think I'll need an extra blanket tonight." He made himself some hot cocoa and got ready for bed. Suddenly, Percy heard a tapping sound. Can you make the tapping sound? Good job. There was someone at the door. Who can that be at this time of night, thought Percy. He went to the door and looked out. If somebody was tapping on your door during a snowstorm, who do you think it would be? Do you have a neighbor that might stop by? Or a critter? There on the very top step was a squirrel, looking cold and miserable. "I can't get to sleep, Percy," said the squirrel. "My bed is full of snow." "Oh dear," said Percy, "never mind. I've got plenty of room for 2. The squirrel snuggled down next to Percy and soon began to feel warm. Knock, knock. Make the knock, knock. It was the door again. Now who can that be, thought Percy. Would you let a squirrel snuggle close with you? It's a very nice idea, but I don't know if I could do it. Standing outside were 2 shivering rabbits. "It's freezing," said one rabbit. "We're frozen," said the other. "You poor thing," said Percy. "Come in and warm up." The rabbits squeezed into the bed next to Percy and the squirrel. There wasn't much room. "Could you face the other way?" Percy asked the squirrel. "Your tail is tickling my nose." Knock, knock. Your cue. "Oh dear," said Percy. "Now there's someone else at the door." Who do you predict it will be? 1 squirrel, 2 rabbits. Oh, this one's pretty cute. It was a fox, looking very cold and hungry. "Can I come in too?" he asked. Percy scratched his head and thought for a moment. "Well, if you promise to behave," he said. "I promise," said the fox, and they all squeezed into the bed next to the other animals. Bump, oops, the squirrel fell out. "Who did that?" asked the squirrel crossly. Crossly, the squirrel's grumpy. Who pushed the squirrel out of the bed? Knock, knock, knock. "Good gracious," said Percy, "it's the door again." This time Percy had quite a surprise. On the step was 1 badger, 2 ducks, 1 hedgehog, and a whole family of mice. They all wanted a bed for the night. And you know, there's the matching page. Matching page, magic page. Poor old Percy. And poor old Percy's bed. The animals pushed and shoved and rolled around the bed, but there was just not enough room for them all. Soon, the bed covers ended up in a big, tight ball. Look at Percy's feet sticking out. Then, bump, the covers rolled right off the bed and everyone fell onto the floor. "Oh dear," said Percy, "this won't do at all. My bed is just too small." Suddenly, one of the mice pricked up his ears. "What's that noise?" he squeaked. Everyone listened hard. Now they could all hear it. There was a scratching and a scraping sound. I can't really make a scratching on my table. You try. Scratch, scrape. It seemed to be coming from underneath them. "There's something moving under the floor," whispered Percy. What could be moving under the floor? You know it better not be a snake. Ooh. The animals looked frightened, and the mice all started to squeak at once. "Oh dear, what can it be? It could be a monster, with fierce claws and sharp teeth." The noise grew louder and louder. Then one of the floorboards began to move. "Look out, it's coming through the floor." Suddenly there was a loud crack. "Help!" cried the animals, and they all ran to hide. What do you predict it will be coming up through the floorboard? It's kind of cute. But Percy wasn't frightened. He started to chuckle and then laughed out loud. A small dark head was sticking up through the floorboards. "This isn't a monster," said Percy. "It's a mole." "I'm sorry to burst in like this," said the mole. "I knocked on the door, but nobody heard me." Percy helped the mole up through the hole in the floor, sat him on a hot water bottle to get warm, and put the floorboard back. "It's all right, everyone," he called. "You can come out now." Remember, all the other animals were hiding from the monster with the fierce claws. But nobody moved, nobody stirred, nobody wanted to come out. The squirrel was tucked away in the pocket of Percy's dressing gown. The hedgehog was in a coat. The fox, the rabbits, the badgers, and the ducks were all safely hidden away. The mice had even squeezed themselves into Percy's slippers. Everybody had found a cozy bed. "Well, I never," said Percy. I love that fun idea. Look around where you are right now. Where is a spot that a critter might find a cozy little bed? As I look around, I see some cozy pillows on the couch they might burrow under. Percy yawned and snuggled down in his own bed again. "That's better," he said. "Now I've got plenty of room and a little to spare for a mole." That's the end. One snowy night, one snowy day, one wonderful book to share with hopefully more than one reader. Thanks for coming to listen to One Snowy Night. It would be fun to write a next book in a series about these animals and to write maybe what they all did for breakfast the next morning or the adventures that they went on outside in the snow. I encourage you to write books as often as you read them. Thanks for coming.